Hey guys, you ready for some straight up chess coaching now? Got simple single objective in this video, and I want to help you to get beyond beginner level chess, right? And to do that, it's not what you need to do. You don't need to learn chess as such. You just need to stop thinking like a beginner, and I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that. Okay, so let's just start by covering the most basic thing, right? You are not, like, let's say you're sub 1000, okay? You want to get above 1000. You're not sub 1000 because you're a dumbass, okay? You are, if you're smart enough to work YouTube, you're smart enough to get over 1000 at chess, okay? Absolutely 100% guaranteed. Now, half the people on chess.com are sub about 850 right now, and about half are above 850. But I believe that everyone who can learn the rules of chess is capable of achieving 1000 in, let's say, rapid. Okay, now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to set out the way that beginners think, right? And then we're going to kind of work up the levels. Okay, so you then have a path and a route set out for you. Okay, now the key thing about beginners is not that they think wrong, and you know, I'm coming from some experience here. Obviously I play against quite a lot of lower ranked players, lower rated players, but also because I teach lessons as well, so I've taught a lot of sub 1000 players. And the way that I teach is normally the most common pattern is that I will get the student to fire up a game against a bot, and then I want them to explain what's going on in their head, what their ideas are, what can they see, you know, how do you read the board, what is the board telling you, what do you think you should do. So I actually get to hear their thought process firsthand. And so from that, I feel like I'm building up a picture that I think can help you, okay, to get it. So it's not that beginners think wrong, okay? But what beginners do is they think a bit and then they stop. That's it, right? They think a bit and then they stop thinking and they go, that'll do, right? So, Let's work through. So I've got like 6 steps that we can work through, and then we'll look at an example game that I think illustrates some of these ideas. So the first level, okay, proper beginner chess, real beginner chess, and I have literally heard this phrase coming from people's mouths. Okay, it's a move. Okay, so you play. Okay, well, I could bring my knight out. It's a move. And then that's it. You go, that's a move, and stop. And then you go no further, and you go, I'll play that. It's a move. I don't think it's going to be taken if I move it there, right? And then you stop. The second level is where you say, I have an idea. Okay, so you've got the semblance of a plan. Okay, so yeah, if I move my knight to that square, it's a better square, and then I might push my pawn forward, I don't know, right? So, but you've got the beginnings of a plan, and it's better to have a bad plan than no plan at all. Okay, so you should start to be thinking, okay, if I do this, is it going to improve my position? And have some idea, where is my opponent going to castle? Where has my opponent castled? Where am I strongest on the board? And have some kind of idea about how you're going to win the game. Now, the beginner level of that tends to be, oh look, if I move my bishop there, I can put him in check. Okay, and then what? And then they stop. Okay, so they go, oh look, there's a check. I'm going to put him in check. But then what happens very often is, you know, they move a pawn in front and the pawn attacks your bishop, and then you have to move your bishop away. Okay, and it's because you've stopped at that point thinking, well, it's a check, it's something, it's a move, it's half an idea. I'll do it, sod it, But then you allow maybe your opponent to develop a piece, and you lose tempo, you lose a move, you have to retreat. Okay, because you stopped thinking at that point. Okay, and it's not because you can't think. You're not a chess beginner because you can't think. You're a chess beginner because you think a little bit and then stop thinking. That's all it is. Okay. Now the third level up the ladder to mastery, I would say, and I'm not a chess master, but I can see where the road leads. Yeah, is where you go. What if? So, if I put my bishop there and put him in check, what's he going to do? Oh, well, he'll probably push his pawn and kick my bishop, and then I'll have to retreat, and then I've lost the tempo. Right? It's as simple as that. If I do this, what will my opponent do? What do I think my opponent will do? Right? You might not be right, but there might be 2 or 3 things that your opponent might do, and you might look at all of those things and go, yeah, actually, that's not a good idea. So I'm not going to do that idea. I'm going to come up with something else. Okay. The fourth level is where you consider multiple ideas. And this might sound completely bleeding obvious, or it might sound like it might be the first time you've heard this. Okay, but you can go, okay, that's an option. That's definitely an option. If I do that, what will my opponent do? And then you say to yourself, okay, if that happens, how can I respond? And how much do I like that scenario that I'm visualizing? All right. And here is where you need to start developing the skill of visualizing what the board will look like if you do that, they do that, and then you respond. Okay. And then you have to go, okay, well, is that better or worse? Okay, do I like that position? Is that better for me or is it better for them? Okay, and then you say, okay, what other candidate moves are there? And you will come up with alternative ideas, and then you do the same thing. If I do that, how will my opponent respond? And do I like that scenario? Right, that's all it is. I mean, now we're talking about, this is getting you up to like 1500 kind of level. You stop blundering and all that thing. You do your goldfish and you make sure stuff's defended, and you don't do completely stupid moves. Just cutting out the stupid moves will get you above 1000, really. And then, so that's level 4, the best candidate. Okay, you come up with multiple candidate moves, and then you choose the best one. Level 5 is simply broadening. You take that and you expand it to say, okay, well, look, instead of thinking, okay, let's A, B, or C, you might come up with D, E, F, and G. So you're literally considering more possible moves. And I watched a video by Gotham Chess yesterday, and it was Garry Kasparov versus the World. I think it was played in 1999. And Kasparov, and it was a daily game, and Kasparov was playing everybody else, like grandmasters, loads of people, and they were all like debating on a bulletin board and deciding how to, it was like vote chess, and they would vote for the best move. It was really, really interesting to work through that video with Levy Rosman saying, like, in some cases, he said, like, Kasparov came up with a move that they didn't even anticipate. Even though all these other grandmasters they hadn't even looked at that. They hadn't even considered that he might play that. And that is, next level stuff. But you can keep going and going and going and going with that. Because then what you say is, like, what if I do that, they do that, then I do that, then they do that. And you just go beyond, right? Another factor, the final factor that I'd like to introduce, once you've considered more candidate moves, is something that I'm just starting to think of as Yin Yang. Okay, so in Chinese philosophy, Yin energy is internal, flowing inwards, containing it's the energy of the moon, it's feminine energy, and yang energy, on the other hand, is outgoing, aggressive doing, right? So when yin is kind of maintaining and nurturing, yang is forceful, okay? And in Tai Chi, they have, yin hands are defensive, okay? And yang hands are attacking, so pushing, striking, that kind of thing. And the moves very often combine yin and yang in the same movement, okay? So you might have, upper yin, lower yang, stuff like that, okay? Or vice versa. And what's interesting, how does this apply to chess? Well, in chess, you are doing two things at the same time. So you've got this kind of reciprocal motion going on, right? Just like in Tai Chi or martial arts or whatever. Because what you're doing is you are doing the yang stuff. Yang is, what are my attacking ideas? How am I going to attack my opponent, win material, checkmate his king, win the game? Okay, that's yang. That's forceful. That's you pushing ahead. Okay, but you also need to consider the yin, because your opponent is likewise doing yang at you. Right? They want to attack you. They want to capture your pieces. They want to gain space. They want to checkmate your king and win the game. So what you've got is, and you can't just both attack each other, right? You also have to defend. And if you look in Tai Chi, they've got these things like pushing hands, where you practice, pushing, receiving, changing round, and that's very, very similar to, I think, the way that a chess game goes. So really good players, I think, spend roughly equal time pushing their own agenda and constraining their opponent. Right? So you have prophylactic moves. You say, I'm going to move that here in order to prevent my opponent from putting their piece on there, because that would be better for them. Right? So I think a lot of beginners think only yang. They think only about what they want to do. And literally, I know there are a lot of people out there who literally only look at their pieces. Yeah, I had a lesson with somebody the other day who said, I always play 1, 2, 3. There's always my first 3 moves. And I'm like, okay. And he literally didn't even consider what his opponent was doing. Very interesting. So there you go. That's the kind of the ladder out of the pit of beginnerhood. Okay. So let's look at a quick game, because I think this is kind of informative. So it's a game I played today, and I've got the black pieces. My opponent starts with e4, and I play e6, the French defense. Then we have knight to f3, and I play c5. So this is turned into the Sicilian French variation. And I think this is the best move when that knight comes out. d5 is also an idea. Okay, and now we have d4. So d4, it's a move, right? Is it an idea? Has he got an idea? Has he got a plan? Don't know. And I think, well, look, I didn't think too hard about this. In fact, we're 6 seconds into the 30-minute game. I think I've got a wing pawn here looking at a central pawn, so I'll just capture. Right? And I'm thinking he's either going to capture with his knight, or he's going to capture with his queen. If he captures with his queen, I can maybe, queen comes out, I might develop my knight with tempo, and the queen has to retreat. Okay, and that's exactly what happens. Queen takes d4, and my opponent here is rated just under 1400. Okay, so he's not a beginner. Okay, so we have queen takes d4, knight to c6. Okay, now what am I doing here? I'm doing two things. I'm developing a piece, and I'm gaining tempo against my opponent. So tempo means, it's the Italian word for time. It means that you have now, because my opponent now has to retreat his queen, he sends it all the way back to d1. My opponent has now wasted a move by retreating his queen. Okay, so now it's my go, and if you look, how much have we developed? Okay, one pawn each, one knight each. but it's my turn. So I have now turned the table. I am now effectively the player with the white pieces. Okay, so now it's my turn. What do I do? Develop my other knight. And I figure, okay, and so multiple candidate moves, yeah? And I've considered, if I put my knight there, what if white plays e5? Well, if white plays e5, it's covered. I've got a knight on there, right? This is simple, and what you have to remember is all the information that you need. It doesn't matter whether you're playing or Gary Kasparov or Magnus Carlsen is playing, right? All the information is right there in that 8x8 square, yeah, on that board. It's all there for the reading, and it's not that you can't figure that out. It's that you go a certain way and stop. That's all it is. Okay, so my opponent develops his knight out. Yeah, it's a move. It's fine. Now, so what am I thinking? I'm thinking, okay, right now in the game. Shut up, Jag. I've got far too many cockerels. I'm going to have to put them in the pot at some point. Okay, what's the story of the board? Well, my king's still in the middle. I haven't finished development. I've got a bunch of pieces to move. So what I want to do now is I want to progress my plan, my Yang plan of advancing my army towards the front and then launching an attack against my opponent. Okay. I also want to constrain my opponent's ideas. So how can I develop and also maybe apply future threats, future danger, and constrain ideas? Okay. So here, queen to a5. Okay, and this is an interesting move. So it's pinning this knight. Okay, another idea would have been bishop out to here as well, which would have done the same thing. Now I'm developing my queen here. See if I can remember the precise reason for that. So the knight's now pinned, and I'm thinking if so this is the idea. Okay, so I've pinned the knight. This knight now cannot legally move. So on my next turn, I could capture on e4, right? Depending on what white chooses to do. But that's my plan. This is a tactic, and it's a tactic that I know, and it's a tactic that I've studied and seen lots of examples, and it's called free capture when the defender is pinned. That's what I call it anyway. So this knight is pinned. This knight is also the only defender of that pawn. Therefore, I can capture that pawn because it's not actually defended, because its defender is pinned. All right. Now, this is an idea. Yeah. So now what I think white was thinking at this point is I want to break that pin. Okay. Now a perfectly good way to do that would be to put the bishop there. Okay. In the way. And then you've even got the threat of moving knighty somewhere else, and then that comes with the discovered attack by the bishop on my queen. Okay, so that would be an idea. What I think white was thinking is if I push a3, I can then push b4. Okay. Now, and then I think he stopped thinking. He's used 1.5 minutes of his 30 minutes. He got an entire half hour to think about this. Okay. And he thinks that a3 is a reasonable move. Okay. And I don't think he thought it through all the way. And the reason is because now I capture the pawn. Right? So he hasn't, what he wants to do is he wants to break the pin, but he's doing it too slowly. For one thing, it takes 2 moves, and another thing, it don't work. Okay, as we will see. So now he plays b4. Okay, now, can you see the problem with this move? Okay, this is not great. I mean, yes, he's attacking my queen, and yes, he's also unpinned the knight, and the knight is attacking my knight, and this looks kind of bad. And the beginner would look at this and go, "Oh no, my queen is under attack, my knight is under attack. I need to move my queen." Right? So a beginner might go, "I'm going to move my queen here," and then you lose your knight. Okay? But as you get stronger at chess, you will have considered more things. So, can you see the move that I play next, okay, that reinstates the pin on the knight, that wins material and develops, okay, and is effectively puts me in a winning position, okay? Now, my opponent didn't consider that I would play this move. The reason he didn't consider that is because he got as far as a3, b4. Yeah, that'll do. That's a move. Do you know what I mean? That's all, okay? I capture his knight, first of all, and I'm attacking his queen, okay? So now, and I've figured this out, okay? If his pawn takes my queen, he's got doubled pawns on the A file, he's got no pawn on the B file, so these are doubled and isolated, okay? He takes my queen, I take his queen, right? And then he takes my knight back with his king. So, not only, so the material would actually be fairly equal, although I think I'll still be a pawn up, because I've grabbed that pawn in the middle, right? And he has no central pawns now, okay? So I figured this out, okay? Pawn takes, knight takes. In fact, yeah, we don't actually go down that route because I think he figured out that it's unfavorable. So pawn takes queen, knight takes queen, king takes knight, and I've even got knight takes pawn, so I could actually go up 2 pawns at this point in time, okay? So he doesn't like that idea, so instead he places queen to d3. So now he's thinking, well, okay, now I'm attacking his knight again, right? And so the description I gave, actually, the move is about to come next, okay? Where I develop, etc. So he thinks, okay, now I'm still attacking black's queen, and now I'm attacking black's knight once again. But no, because here comes bishop takes b4. And this is a great move, right? Bishop takes b4, because now the queen can't capture the knight, because bishop takes queen, loses, okay? Pawn can't capture bishop, because the pawn is actually pinned. There's no defender of the rook. So if pawn takes bishop, yeah, queen takes rook, if queen takes knight, queen takes bishop, and that's actually checkmate as well, right? So that can't happen. But, you know, I thought that through, but my opponent clearly didn't. So now he blocks with his bishop, okay? And I simply castle, because we've got the same deal, okay? Bishop takes with a fork, check and hitting the rook, okay? Queen takes, bishop takes queen. Sing a happy song, it's fine. Pawn takes bishop, queen takes rook, it's still fine, okay? Because I figured this out and he hasn't, okay? So now, this is kind of slow, but, you know, he's trying to castle his king, okay? So he's thought, okay, I've got an idea. I need to get my king out of trouble, okay? Knight takes bishop, queen takes bishop, queen takes bishop, knight takes, okay? And now, if you look at the board, I'm up. I've got a bishop, my opponent doesn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns, and he's got 5 pawns. He's got 3 here and 2 useless isolated pawns. So the game goes on for a few more moves. So can you see my plan here? Okay, this is more than it's a move, right? There's lots of moves here. There's lots of moves that you could play. I could have played knight to d4, thinking, oh, I'll attack the queen and also attack the pawn, okay? Now, if you stop at that point, then your opponent just goes, okay, I'll drop my queen back here or something like that, you know, and defend the pawn. So, have I achieved anything with that? Is my position, is the board better? Has the game turned any more in my favour from that move? Well, probably it hasn't, you know. My knight is in a defended position here. If I move it to here, it's not defended, you know. What could happen? Lots could happen. Anyway, so what I do here is, I'm now anticipating my opponent. I'm thinking yin. I'm thinking, what does my opponent want to do? I'm not just thinking about go forward my ideas. I'm thinking, what does white want to do? Well, I think I know what white wants to do. White wants to castle his king. Okay, so the reason I just played b6 here is so that if white castles his king, bishop a6, hitting the queen and the rook that's behind it, and that I knew, and I'd figured out that there's only one way to save the queen and the rook, which is knight there. Bishop takes knight, queen takes. I'm trading off material because I'm 5 points up. I'm up, excuse me, a full minor piece and 3 pawns. Life is good, okay? And now I offer a trade of queens here. Clearly, that's not in white's favour, moves to queen. Now I push a pawn, so now I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have these lovely extra pawns. These are my extra ones, yeah? And I'm hitting the queen. Queen moves away here, and now I attack the queen with my knight, and at this point my opponent resigns. He's only used 6 minutes of his 30 minutes that he had on the clock, and he hasn't used them well enough, clearly. You know, he should have simply taken more time. He got to, I have an idea, you know. He got, you know, he's won a bunch of chess games, so he's gone beyond it's a move to I have an idea, but he hasn't gone deep enough into what if, considering all the possibilities, choosing the best candidate move, right, and even then broadening it out to consider more things. And I don't think that he was in control of his yin yang, getting the balance right between constraining my ideas and advancing his own. So I think that just kind of nicely illustrates the progression out of beginner chess and starting to go towards mastery. So what do I need to do in the future from this point? It's all the same stuff, right? Considering lots of candidate moves, every possible move, right? There are moves that you may not have considered. There are moves that may not be in your kind of sphere of thinking, right? But when you make a mistake and you analyze your game and the computer says, well, that was better, try and figure out why it was better, you know? Really do. And because you know, in order to progress, you've got to stretch yourself. You've got to consider alternative ideas that you don't normally naturally consider. You've got to stretch your brain. You've got to stretch your thinking. That's how it's going to work, right? And then, you know, to become a master at chess, you're doing the same stuff. You're considering your opponent, you're considering your ideas, you're balancing those two energies, the yin and the yang, yeah? You are going just a little bit deeper, little bit deeper, little bit deeper every time, okay? So if you're a beginner and you're stuck being a beginner, right? That's exactly what you need to do, right? You need to stop stopping. Stop stopping thinking, right? Don't go, well, it's a move, you know, screw it, I'll play it, okay? Don't stop at, this is an idea, I can attack my opponent's queen, make it move, right, and stop there. You can't do that. You'll always be a beginner if you do that. Take it to the next level. If I attack my opponent's queen, what's my opponent going to do? And do I like that? Does that improve my situation? Or does it make it worse? If it makes it worse, bin it. It's a no good idea, right? Come up with a better idea. You can do this. The information is all there, right? You just have to keep thinking. Simple as, okay? So there you go. That's what I, woke up thinking this morning to try and help you guys to progress as quickly as possible from wherever you are now and get really on that road to mastery. It's a wonderful game, and the depth and the complexity and the beauty that you can get from this. I mean, this was a lovely game, I think, for me. I really enjoyed that win. It's just great. It's just great, and you can keep going and going. So, what I'm not saying to you today is you need to start thinking like Kasparov or Carlsen or Stockfish, right? You can't, it's not going to happen. Okay, what you need to do is say, okay, well, honestly, where am I? Am I stopping at it's a move? Am I going, well, here's half an idea, let's go with it and see what happens, right? Are you in guess chess? And this is a really, really useful thing to remember. Okay, I could play that, and let's see what happens, right? That's guess chess. When you go, oh, I don't know what my opponent's going to do, well, figure it out. You can figure it out. You are smart enough to figure it out. If I do that, what's my opponent going to do? What are his options? How many squares has he got? Okay, is there a weakness? Okay, is he going to counterattack me? What's going to happen? And practice visualizing the board once you've changed it in your mind. Okay, and we can't all be Beth Harmon picturing it on the ceiling. Okay, but that's all it is. You know, that's what we're talking about. If I do that, what's going to happen? Is that better for me, or is it worse? If it's worse, okay, what other ideas have we got? That's it. Okay, so wherever you are now, be honest with yourself. How far down this process do I get before I just pack in and stop thinking? Because that is it. That is the reason why you are where you are. It's because you get a certain level and then you stop. Okay, I'm the same, right? I get to a certain level and then I stop, and I completely blundered an end game today because I just went, that's a move, I'll push that pawn, right? Completely wrong. Right, let me show you. Let me show you what I did this today. Okay, so go back to my profile and this game. Okay, I played 88% accuracy. My opponent played 97 accuracy. Right, did really well. Okay, so black wins the game. I'm just going to go back a few moves to here. Okay, now let's read the board. Okay. It's looking actually pretty drawish. My opponent's got 15 minutes on the clock. I've got 22 minutes on the clock. And so what have we got? Yeah, let's do here. Okay, so I'm thinking, well, I don't really have to do anything. We've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Material is completely equal at this point. Okay, and I managed to screw this game up completely. Material is equal. We've all got 7 pawns. Okay, I've got double pawns on the G file. He's got double pawns on the G file, and he's also got double pawns on the C file. Okay, that means he's got an isolated pawn there, and these pawns are doubled and isolated. Okay, this pawn cannot progress up the board. I'm actually in the stronger position right here. Okay, now I make a stupid move. G3. Okay, so I'm thinking G3, I might push this, and if takes, takes, and I'll protect it with my king. Okay, and then I stopped thinking. That's as far as I got. Okay, I didn't consider, if I do that, what can my opponent do? Well, that's what my opponent can do, right? Rook h8, and suddenly I'm screwed, right? If I play h4 now, takes, takes, rook takes, and I'm down a pawn, okay? My king cannot get to the pawn to protect it, right? From here, I could have played h3, and then there's no option for that rook down the h file, okay? I maneuver my king around, get my rook back here, and I could probably force a draw very easily from this position. But no, I completely bugger it up by pushing the wrong pawn to g3, and then I lose a pawn. And then I make it worse, okay? So, right, put my rook back, we swap off rooks. Now this still isn't a terrible situation, okay? Because look, I've got 4 pawns on 4 files, and so's he really. Because this pawn's doing nothing, it's just stuck behind another one. So it's still a very, very balanced position. Okay, and now I start to move my king up, and I'm thinking I can come after these pawns, maybe come after these pawns, maybe do this. Now he's now coming down this channel, okay, the A and B files. And I simply didn't think enough, okay? I've got 22 minutes on my clock, right? And I do something completely stupid. I've got an idea. I'm going to stop that king from coming down there. Okay, A4, that'll do. It's a move. No, it's not. That's a blunder. That's actually a blunder. What I should have played is pawn to A3. I play pawn to A3. The king can't come beyond this point. You shall not pass. right? Then my king can go in there. So when I saw his king heading over this way, I thought, hello, this is interesting. I've got him. He's slipped up. Because here's what I was thinking. What I was thinking was going to happen was his king was going to patrol these two squares, right? The key square here, right, it's a bit of kind of end game thing. I wanted to get my king to here, right? I knew if I could get my king to there, there's no way that his king can possibly defend these pawns and stop me from marching up there with Gary or Harry, right? Whichever one it is. The Gary twins. Yeah, that's a winning position if I could get my king to there. So that's what I'm thinking. And I neglected my opponent's idea. My opponent then starts to maneuver his king around to the AB files. And I think he's screwed this up now, right? So I start my king's journey here, and then he carries on. And now I know he cannot stop me from getting these pawns. So I get excited. And because I got excited, I stopped at I have an idea. Okay, I didn't go what if. I didn't figure it out. I got 22 minutes left on the clock, and I just got lazy. I stopped thinking that's all it is, right? Am I capable of figuring out what happens if A3, sorry, pawn A4, yeah, king there, king grabs pawn, and everything falls. And there's nothing I can do to stop the A pawn from promoting, okay? But no, yes, I'm capable of thinking that, but I just rushed it. Okay, I stopped thinking, I rushed it, and I lost. Okay, king to there, and now it's kind of a foot race, but there's nothing I can do. Right, from this point, now with this move, all of my pawns are deadlocked. They can't go anywhere. My king has to move, okay? My king can't go here or here because of pawns, or here. So I've only got 3 squares to go. So I go there, and it's over. There's nothing I can do to prevent black from completely wiping the floor with me now, okay? And it all came down to that. And if we look at the report, I played a very solid game up to that point. But look at this. Okay, white's doing better, there's, a couple of changes. Now suddenly black's doing incredibly well, okay? At this point, blunder, okay? And of course Muggins here gets overexcited. Best move, get in, I'm winning now. Blunder, okay? I'm in a 1 position until okay. I don't know why it says mistake and not blunder there, because I've gone from +7 to -7, right? I've gone from winning to losing, so I would call that a blunder. I didn't need to do that. And like the computer says, I could have played my king to there, gobble up this pawn, I can play A3 at any point, right? But I didn't. Is it because I'm stupid? No. Is it because I don't understand chess? No. Why was it? I stopped thinking. Simple as that. Okay, that you go. That's the lesson that I really, really wanted to impart. I think that every beginner, once you get your head round this, that it's not that you can't, it's that you can't be bothered. You stop. Just don't stop. Practice thinking just 1 level deeper than you think now. And that's how you're going to get better. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. See you later.